Hello and welcome back to Tell Me Your Ghost Story. I'm your host, Kassie Askin, here with my husband co-host, Spencer.
Hello.
And today we take a very special trip to Disney's infamous, scary, extinct attraction, ExtraTERRORestrial Alien Encounter. And yes, I wrote it. Well, I wrote a recreation of it that I will tell you all about shortly. But if you're not an avid Disney fan, you may have heard about ExtraTERRORestrial. That's really hard to say. It's extra, and then the terror is capitalized in ExtraTERRORestrial. I'm going to say extraterrestrial from here on out.
This was originally written by the rural juror.
So you may have heard about ExtraTERRORestrial Alien Encounter the same way I did from Defunctland's video about it. Defunctland is a YouTube series discussing the history of extinct theme park attractions. I'm a huge fan and I've seen every Defunctland video, shout out. But if you haven't heard of Defunctland or ExtraTERRORestrial Alien Encounter, have no fear. I'm going to take you through the history of Alien Encounter attraction right now. But maybe actually you should have some fear because Alien Encounter is, of course, scary. ExtraTERRORestrial Alien Encounter was a theater-like seated show attraction located in Tomorrowland in Magic Kingdom at DisneyWorld. It was open from 1995 to 2003. When Michael Eisner became CEO of Disney in 1984, he took a tour of all of Disney's parks along with his teenage son, Breck. What kind of name is Breck?
Dude.
Do you think he was fast?
What?
Breck fast?
I think the scariest part is that this man named his child Breck.
Yeah.
I think meeting Breck, he should just set up a kissing booth with Breck if he was trying to fucking scare the shit out of teenagers. Hey, here's my son Breck. Try and get through a whole day talking to him. You know what I mean?
Breck Eisner. What does Breck mean?
You know, hey, before we get into this, I have a couple questions, if you don't mind me asking, and a few statements. Okay, so Magic Kingdom, what's that?
That's like the main one with the castle, with all the Disney rides. There's also Hollywood Studios. There's the animal one, Animal Kingdom.
Okay, Animal Kingdom, this is cool because that opened in 1997. I know that because my family went on one of two family trips that we've ever taken. Besides, we used to go to Yosemite like every year for like 3 years when I was a kid. But other than that, we've only been on two like actual trips in my whole life. I'm 34 years old. And one of them was to go to Disney World when I was 7 years old. And it was right when the Animal Kingdom opened. And we went there and Epcot and Disney World. And I remember getting off the plane in Florida and being like, Mom, why are my clothes all wet? And it's just like, this is what Florida's like, sweetie. And it's like, well, that explains a lot.
I was going to ask, so did you go to Magic Kingdom on this trip? You must have.
Yeah.
That's like the main one.
Yeah, we did the three. We did Epcot, Animal Kingdom, and
Epcot.
Whatever. But we didn't do this Hollywood.
I think that's rather new. It might have been after, but you were
Sounds rather uninteresting, to be fair. Hollywood, Florida, Paris, Texas.
But you were at Magic Kingdom while this attraction was open.
I don't think so.
1995 to 2003.
Oh my gosh, yes I was.
Yeah, so you were there.
Wow. Yeah, okay.
You must have not gone on it because you're not scarred from it, so.
No, but I have a host of other problems.
After the tours with his father, Breck expressed that the parks lacked a certain cool factor, which led Eisner to focus on rides and attractions that would appeal to teenagers. At this time, the Disney parks lacked many of the thrill rides that they have now, but instead of adding thrilling roller coasters to the parks, Eisner decided that to appeal to teens, he was going to add exciting and intense shows to the parks. This began a collaboration between Disney and George Lucas, and they opened the Star Tours and Indiana Jones Epic Stunt Spectacular show. After these two shows were successful, Eisner proposed adding a ride using Ridley Scott's Alien IP. The ride would be like a Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger spin type of ride, but instead of shooting at cartoonish targets, you'd be in pitch black darkness shooting shotguns at aliens that are trying to kill you. This ride idea, shockingly, was shot down, pun intended, because the Alien films are rated R, and at the time, the general rule of thumb was to base Disney attractions off of films rated G or PG. Nowadays, Disney does venture into creating attractions based off of movies rated PG-13, such as the Marvel movies and Avatar. But back in the 90s, it had to be G or PG.
Was Passion of the Christ PG-13?
Probably.
Why?
Too much passion.
I was going to ask if you think that if they made Passion of the Christ today, if you think it would be sponsored by Prime.
He'd be sweating like green fluid.
Yeah,
It's just
totally.
Prime,
Yeah.
like in the Gatorade commercials.
Have you seen that Hard Times where it's like Logan Paul says Prime is completely safe for a 9-foot tall, 600-pound child?
No.
It tastes good. I'm going to be honest.
So Ridley Scott's Alien franchise was scrapped. However, Eisner kept the Alien concept, and he zeroed in on an attraction that desperately needed reworking, Mission to Mars. Mission to Mars was a seated theater show that opened in 1975. Guests entered the theater, which was circular in design, and there were projections on the floor and ceiling to simulate a trip into outer space. But by the 90s, the attraction was unpopular and seen as boring. So Eisner proposed that the attraction be revamped with help from George Lucas and have an alien theme, but less frightening than Ridley Scott's Alien.
Okay, first off, Breck. So like your dad is rich. Your dad is so rich. And he takes you around Disneyland, and your first thought is like, Dad, this isn't cool. Fucking shut up, you know? Yeah, your dad's not cool. It's your dad, you dumbass. He's rich as shit. Just say thanks. Of course he's not cool. He's your dad.
Thanks for buying me Disneyland, Papa.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, come on. You know? And then secondly, when I first heard about this, and it's like, yeah, I want to attract more teenagers with thrill rides. So let's do a seated theater. It's like, oh, this is cool. So you hired literally the biggest dipshit on earth for this job. It's like, oh, yeah, we could use some more fast-paced extreme sports. So why don't we get some really cool bingo games going? Like,
did he pay Breck at all for his insight?
Dude, this is like child labor laws.
Okay, so George Lucas and Imagineers worked on the attraction's plot, and the first draft's plot was that the humans in the audience were captured by aliens and are about to be used as human guinea pigs. But then the alien who captured the audience reveals that he desires to escape and free the audience. His alien cohort responds by attempting to blow up the entire facility, including the audience, but the good alien is able to hold them off and allows the audience to escape with their lives. While leaving the theater, guests were to hear sounds of the aliens fighting amongst themselves as they exit. This first draft was deemed too dark and was reworked into the plot that was actually approved and produced. ExtraTERROrestrial Alien Encounter officially opened on June 20th, 1995. The queue area was made to look like a futuristic convention center where you are about to witness a demonstration of new technology from an alien company called XS Tech, whose founder is an alien named L.C. Clench.
That sounds like something you get off Adam and Eve with a 20% off code.
You meet L.C. Clench on the video screens, and he gives several speeches about the importance of XS Tech's technological advances. You then enter a pre-show area, kind of like the elevator room in Haunted Mansion, you know, where you crowd into a room and are shown a video or something before the ride. And in this pre-show area, you're introduced to a robot who is voiced by Tim Curry, and he demonstrates this new alien technology to the audience for the first time. It's a teleportation technology. To demonstrate the technology, he brings out a cute little alien named Skippy, who has pretty recently gained a cult following with the resurgence of interest in Alien Encounter. Etsy is brimming with Skippy merch. Anyway, the Tim Curry robot teleports little Skippy from one side of the room to the other, but you can tell from Skippy's shrieks and his scorched and dazed appearance after the teleportation that the technology might be flawed. The Tim Curry robot goes on to instruct the audience to imagine this technology on a bigger scale. Instead of transportation across the room, imagine teleportation across the galaxy. He reveals that one of you, the audience members, will do just that, and they will teleport across the galaxy. The audience then enters the main attraction, the circular theater room. In the center, there's a giant clear cylindrical tube, which is to serve as the teleportation tube. Guests are seated around the tube, and harnesses are lowered over the guests' shoulders. The show starts, and Elsie Clench, along with 2 other XS Tech employees, communicate live across the galaxy to the audience. They say they're analyzing the audience for the perfect specimen to transport across the galaxy to their planet for a meeting with Elsie Clench. However, Elsie Clench stops the process, claiming he's been struck with inspiration. Instead of transporting a human to XS Tech headquarters, Clench has decided to transport himself to Earth, claiming he wants to meet the entire group of humans, not just one. Then he can answer everyone's questions about the wonders of XS Tech. The 2 other employees seem hesitant, but Clench is insistent as he steps inside the teleportation tube. As the tube is getting fired up, the employees are anxiously exclaiming that because of the last-minute switch, the calibration is off. Because of this, the teleportation signal gets diverted through an unknown planet. As a result, a towering, winged, dragon-like alien shows up in the teleportation tube inside of the theater instead of Clench. You hear the employees freaking out, screaming that the alien is carnivorous and that the audience is in a lot of danger, and the teleportation tube is about to break inside of the theater. The lights go off and the theater is now in pitch black darkness as they hear audio of the teleportation tube shattering, and the alien is now loose inside of the theater. The lights remain off due to the power surge that was caused from the teleportation, and the guests remain restrained in their seats. The thing about the restraints, though, is that they were not only utilized to keep guests from standing up during the show and walking out, but it strategically placed speakers right at the guests' ears, which played a new technology called binaural audio. Spencer, you are a recording musician. Have you ever heard of binaural audio?
Actually, yes. That's interesting. Our producer, John, he has a binaural head.
Oh.
Like a mannequin head.
Yeah, awesome.
It's like a binaural microphone head.
Yeah.
That like he uses in his drum room.
Oh, amazing. Binaural audio is a method of recording sound to capture a 3-dimensional acoustic experience. It uses 2 microphones placed in a dummy head where a mannequin head is fitted with a microphone in each ear. The recording is then arranged with the intent to create a 3D sound sensation for the listener of actually being in the room with whatever is being recorded. So that's really interesting. You should ask him, like, is there any songs that you have recorded with this? Because that'd
everything that we have.
Oh, really?
Has it. Yeah, it's just like the room. That's like the room mic that you use for your mixed in for your drum sound.
Wow, that's really interesting and unique. At this time, this was like brand new technology.
In '95. Yeah, that makes sense.
So this binaural audio was able to place the alien in the room with the audience. It made it really sound like the alien was traveling around the room. They also...
Oh, that makes sense. That was probably fucking crazy for people.
Mm-hmm. They also played pre-recorded screams into the speakers, making it sound like the real audience was freaking out more than they potentially really were.
Yeah.
Also in the restraint was an apparatus that blew hot air onto the necks of the audience, simulating the alien's breath. After the alien takes a jaunt around the theater in pitch black darkness, terrifying all of the audience, you hear the audio of an unsuspecting repairman who has come to try to get the power back on. But he is mauled and killed and eaten by the alien. Water was misted onto the audience at this time, simulating the repairman's blood. The alien then moves back through the audience as the seats shake, more binaural audio is played, more hot breath is breathed, blasts of air came from the ceiling to feel like the alien's flapping wings, and air blown through soft textile tubes under the seat and behind the guest's head would fill with air and flap out to feel like the alien's tongue was at your ankles and neck. Despite the repairman being mauled and killed, the power does come back on. The connection to excess tech is regained. The light comes back on. The employees are able to lure the alien back into the tube, but instead of the tube transporting the alien back, it explodes the alien due to the previous power surge. The audience is now safe again, and the restraints are lifted as the XS Tech employees discuss the task of locating Clench to teleport him back. That marks the end of the attraction. Now, the reception. As you can imagine, guests found this to be much too scary for a Disney park. Although there was a warning sign outside of the attraction that read, "The extraterrestrial alien encounter is a frightening theatrical experience in a confined setting with loud noises and moments of total darkness. This attraction may be too intense for children and some adults." The height requirement was about 3.5 feet tall, and I looked up the national average, and the average child reaches that height at 5 years old. So there's totally the potential to have little kids be tall enough for this ride, and I do think this experience sounds too scary for your average child of 5 years, and I'm surprised there was no age requirement. But I found some comments left on YouTube videos of the ride from people who experienced it, and I think they really capture the vibe of the general reception of the ride. Here they are. This can't even begin to capture how terrifying it was. People were openly weeping as they walked out. Your imagination amplified everything that was happening. Not everyone would experience these sensations at the same time because part of feeling the fear came from hearing other people experiencing the sensations before you do. It was a very well psychologically designed and timed ride. Even the adults came out scared. I was 7 and I begged my dad to take me on this ride because I loved outer space. This ride absolutely terrified me and I cried. We didn't know it was going to be scary, and the whole unexpectedness of the rogue alien intercepting the transport and all the screaming had me thinking it was real and actually going to eat us. Hit this one up in 98, 10 years old, and scared the hell out of me. I remember screaming in tears, "I don't want to die."
Dude, that's awesome.
So I remember describing this to you before we recorded this, and I feel like your thoughts were maybe, how is like an attraction really that scary? But now after describing it, do you think that it sounds like it would be scary?
Well, to be fair, hearing the description of it, I think it sounds way cooler than I thought it was before. I actually am interested in it, and I think it's cool now. Yeah. When you first told me about it, I was like, this sounds really dumb. And I think it's a total waste. And I can't believe anyone would go on it. I still do think, per Breck's suggestion and whoever the CEO,
Michael Eisner.
Yeah, Michael Eisner. I think to fulfill what he was looking for, I think it's completely the wrong idea. And it's just like, unless his whole thing was, I want to do something so left field, no one would ever guess that I'm going to do this, which completely it is that. Although, if it furthered their relationship with George Lucas, I suppose that long-term was a great move for them. But that's totally another conversation. I don't know enough about Star Wars or George Lucas or Disney to make that claim. But telling the story, like even hearing you just tell the plot of the thing is like, okay, I can totally see where all this is coming from. And that sounds really interesting. And like, yeah, that would be cool. But as someone who I've grown up in Southern California, you've grown up in Southern California, you've been to a ton of theme parks. I don't know about you. Me and my family, I never go to shit like that. Like, we just go on the rides. I would never walk into a thing. Even if it was like, oh, I heard this was really cool. I would never go into a thing that's like not a ride. You would just assume it's going to be lame. Did you go to stuff like that?
Honestly, I was afraid of everything until about middle school, I would say. So I would see Alien Encounter. And I've always been interested in reading about ghosts and aliens and stuff, but like real life stuff. Like, I didn't ride Haunted Mansion until I was like in middle school, I think.
Whoa.
And Pirates of the Caribbean. I didn't like it in real life. I was way too scared. But yeah, I would have taken like one look at like the scary font of Alien Encounter and been like, that's not for me. Okay.
Well, I'm glad that you didn't go on that because it sounds like you would have had a really, really terrible experience. Yeah, I still don't think it's a ride. I still think it's just an odd choice, but it sounds like they did a really good job of scaring people. I'm still like, kind of like, again, I say it so often, that Tyler, the Creator thing about cyberbullying. It's like, turn the computer off, dude. You know, like, you're at Disneyland. You really think an alien came down at Disneyland to kill you? I just think the whole thing is misguided. Like
Sure.
they shouldn't have gone about it that way. They should have made a fucking roller coaster.
Yeah.
But that's cool. It's fine. It lasted much longer than it sounded like you told me. When you told me this like thing that sucked and was way too scary for people, I was like, oh, it lasted like a year. So this is like up there a long time.
Mm-hmm. I do think it feels too scary to be in a Disney park. And I think people go to Disneyland with the thought that like, this is not going to be that scary. And 100% no one read that warning sign.
Why would anything be scary at a Disney park?
Yeah.
I completely agree with you.
I remember my dad telling me, like trying to get me to go on Haunted Mansion when I was a little kid, being like, do you think Walt Disney would want to scare you? And I'm like, look at that mansion. It's called the Haunted Mansion. Like, I'm not going in that. So in 2004, Alien Encounter was replaced by Stitch's Great Escape, a more kid-friendly, immersive alien experience. Instead of a scary, carnivorous alien breathing on you, licking your ankles, and eating maintenance workers, Stitch just ran around and laughed and burped in your face. And apparently during the burp part of the Stitch show, the same hot air contraption was used, but also a smelly gas was released, and audio played suggesting Stitch stole a chili dog from someone in the audience. So you were smelling his chili dog burp.
Hormel? Do you think the chili had beef in it?
Beans or no beans?
That's what I'm saying, dog.
I think it always has beef.
Chili?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Okay, the scariest attraction, chili with no beef.
Vegetarian chili.
No. Hold on. You can't say that. You could make turkey chili.
Well,
Doesn't always have beef.
but turkey's replacing the beef.
Yeah,
Like,
but you can't say it always has beef.
all right. I was using beef to represent all meat.
Yeah, that's not fair. That's like when we're at a restaurant and my dad says, give me the meat. You know, like, what do you want on your taco? I want meat. We know he means beef, but the waiter, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All right.
I get it. Okay. Even though many people claim the reason Alien Encounter closed down was because it was too scary, Disney has never shared the exact reason why they shut it down. Some other reasons people like to speculate about the closure include the popularity of Lilo and Stitch. Replacing Alien Encounter with Disney IP would be good marketing since Alien Encounter did not have any movie tie-in. But perhaps the reason that makes the most sense for the closure of the attraction is wildly apparent when you learn who the actor who played Clench was. I withheld his identity from you this whole time for a reason, to surprise you with it right now. Jeffrey Jones. Clench was played by Jeffrey Jones. And in 2003, Jeffrey Jones was charged
Oh, fuck.
with soliciting a minor to pose for nude photographs. He pleaded no contest and had 2 subsequent arrests for failing to update his sex offender status. So I think that was definitely a major deciding factor, for sure. But alas, the 2 other reasons are pretty good supporting actors as well.
Clench. Classic Clench behavior. You know what I'm saying? Jeffrey Jones, that's the Bueller principle.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I thought.
And from Beetlejuice, too. He wasn't in the remake. They made his character eaten by a shark.
Yeah.
Also, he's been in movies since that. It was proven that he took photographs of an underage boy. That's unbelievable to me. He's been in things since that happened.
Dude, that is fucking insane. Hey, people love Chris Brown.
Yeah.
I don't fucking get it.
I know.
It's so wild to me. Jeffrey Jones and Michael Jackson. Okay, maybe we don't have a great track record with the fucking theater shows, right? Like, it's like Disney's got this great idea for a new theater show. It's based on the Bicycle Man episode of Different Strokes. It's like, hey guys, maybe that's not the one. Anyway, dude, why didn't you just make a corkscrew roller coaster? Why didn't you just have a corkscrew roller coaster called Mustafa's Revenge?
Make people go upside down. That's what teens want.
That's all teens fucking want.
Go upside down.
And do it fast.
Yes.
And make it like a hanging coaster.
Yes.
Put this. Dude, when you were, in the 90s, if you could have a Mountain Dew, like a soda that was like, that looked like it had an LED light in it, you know, the color of the soda looked like it had electricity in it, And then a commercial had, if you were getting into a roller coaster, you had to put it above you, like a half zip pullover from Old Navy. If you had to do this to get in it, that's what fucking teenagers want. They don't want to sit down and, have to get right with God because an alien is licking their ankles. That's just weird.
Now, in recent years, after Defunctland's video and several other YouTube videos covered the history of the ride, it's grown a cult following. So much so that an arts organization called Trepany House created a live horror experience based on the ride that I went to, and I will be sharing my experience with you all now. It's sponsored by Titmouse Animation Production Company and held at the Titmouse Warehouse in Los Angeles. The event promises a Disney attraction parody, an original production, and a total retelling of the original concept, in which the audience will experience 25 minutes of being face-to-face with a ferocious, flesh-eating extraterrestrial whose only instinct is to release carnage upon this planet Earth. Audience members were sent this warning via email. Being drenched in blood is unavoidable. Please dress accordingly. We are not responsible for damage to your clothes. You are also agreeing to possible contact between you and the performers by coming to this show. So I thought this was the perfect event to go to on Halloween night, and I did dress accordingly, keeping in mind that I would be covered in blood. The theater they created in Titmouse Warehouse is rather small and intimate. I believe the maximum audience size each night was only 50. And when you walk in, they immediately immerse you in DisneyWorld-esque surroundings. They had you form a single file line and walk into the theater in that line, and all of the actors were wearing Disney-type uniforms with Disney name tags, and once you enter the theater, it's a short walk to where the stage and seating area is, but they taped a maze-like queue on the floor, and the actors instructed you to follow the line, so it felt like you were walking through a real winding maze of a line at Disney World. I really love that detail. Then we all got seated. I managed to be in the front row on the far left-hand side. This was not a circular stage with seating all around like the ride. Instead, it was a more standard, normal stage setup. And the stage had their version of the transportation tube, which was more simply just a sheet of glass in the middle of a large rectangular vessel with wires and buttons all over it. There was also a large TV screen and a large maintenance closet door. A spirited hostess then comes out once everybody is seated and introduces herself to the audience and explains that we are about to witness the transportation of an alien from the planet Neptune to Earth. We see the alien in question on the TV screen, and he expresses his excitement to meet us all in person. The TV keeps loudly glitching and warping the alien's face, but we're assured by the hostess that the technology is totally safe. Then a maintenance worker named Harvey bursts through the maintenance closet door, a jump scare that indeed made me jump. He says a couple lines which end with, "I'm just happy to be alive." Then the transportation process begins. But you guessed it, the power goes out during the process. The theater is 100% pitch black at this point. Repairman Harvey is heard rummaging around and trying to restore power. He's successful, but we can see on the TV screens that the transportation has been intercepted by an unknown entity. The entity draws closer to Earth, and the lights go out again before his entry. The intercepted alien appears in the transportation area behind glass, and it's a tall, orange, slug-looking alien with a puppeteered tongue and light-up eyes. It's an amazing, huge puppet, probably like over 7 feet tall. It's like a Muppet-level puppet, and it looks like he's being manned by at least like 2 to 3 people. He licks the glass as the employee panics. The alien grows angry, and after the lights are shut off again, the alien is gone and the glass panel is broken. The alien is now lurking somewhere in the building. Harvey comes back out, proudly boasting about how he was able to get the power back on, and he will not let the hostess speak, and he's completely oblivious to the fact that a murderous alien is on the loose. He goes over to the maintenance closet, and his hands are over his head reaching for something in the closet when suddenly he's lifted off the ground and blood shoots out from the closet and soaks the audience. The lights go out again, and you can hear the alien creep into the audience area. Now, this part was such an amazing coordinated effort that I'm still trying to figure out how it was done because it was in complete darkness. What I think they did was they had several people wearing night vision goggles creep out into the audience, and row by row, they fucked with every single person. I think they had like a long tube that they blew air through and like made noises into the tube, but they would put the tube like right in your face and next to your ear. So it sounded like they were right next to you. And they must have had like foamy tentacles on a rod or something, and they would drop it onto people, and they dumped more blood and slime into the audience. And this really plays into the suspense, right? Like that one YouTube comment said, because they fucked with me near the end of the whole period that they were doing this. So I was just hearing some muffled noises and then people shrieking and reacting and laughing to what was happening. So the suspense and anticipation really builds. Then the lights come back on and the hostess is trying to regain composure, but a man from the audience stood up. He was completely soaked in blood, and the hostess asked him to please take his seat again, but he was complaining about how soaked in blood he was and that he really just wanted to leave. This part was so well done that I actually thought for a second that this man was really a real audience member trying to leave. However, then the alien comes out right behind from some curtains, right behind this guest, and the hostess tries to warn him that he's about to get eaten. Then the lights flash out for just a second, and when they're back on, he's replaced with a dummy that is being eaten by the alien, and again, the audience is covered in blood. The alien starts to make its way to devour the hostess when 2 SWAT team members burst into the room and shoot the alien with machine guns, once again covering the audience in blood and slime this time. They save the hostess and the audience. There were so many components that made this an amazingly enjoyable horror comedy performance. There were jump scares, flashing lights, moments of pitch darkness, super loud sounds, amazing set design, absurd and humorous deaths, moments of true fear and suspense, repeated hose downs of blood and slime, and great actors. Now, I recently dragged you, Spencer, to a different horror theater experience. And I'm not going to say what company it was, but it was really bad.
It sucked.
They promised a terrifying experience, and I even think they said it wasn't fit for anyone under the age of 17, which, like, Halloween Horror Nights suggests a minimum age of 13. And I think Halloween Horror Nights is very scary. But this
that was much scarier than the shit we went to.
Yeah.
Unless you're looking in a crystal ball and someone's like, this is what your future's looking like. That would be some scary stuff.
But this other horror theater thing was just not scary at all. It was lame. The actors were beginners, let's say. And it was triple the price of the Alien Encounter ticket.
Yeah, it was brutal.
It was not good. So after that show, I was like, dang, I guess horror theater is maybe just like too hard to do. Like maybe really the only real life horror experience that translates well is a haunted house maze type situation, like Halloween Horror Nights. But Alien Encounter totally made me do a complete 180 on that take. Horror theater is totally a thing that can work, and honestly, I'm so excited for future stuff from Trepany House. I will be there opening night. They have a new fan in me. Alien Encounter has been extended to run Fridays and Saturdays in January 2025, and as of the posting time of this podcast, there are still tickets available. So if you're in the LA area and are interested in this type of thing, you absolutely need to go. One last thing before we go, if you, like me, were wondering how all of the blood gets cleaned up night after night, Amit Idleman, writer and director of Alien Encounter, told Variety magazine, well, the secret to cleaning up gallons of stage blood is sawdust, he says. A whole lot of sawdust cleans up any mess.
Ain't that the truth? Was it scary?
It was scary.
Were you actually scared in there?
I was probably more scared like at Halloween Horror Nights, but like there genuinely were some like crazy jump scares that got me. And then the anticipation of being fucked with and not knowing what was going to happen.
Was it as scary as like a scary movie?
It was like the suspense and scary level of like a really good scary movie.
Okay.
And it was like very impressive. It was like watching like theater, like.
But because it was good.
Yeah, it was good, and like the actors.
So you definitely for sure would go again.
Yes.
I'm really intrigued.
Yeah, the actors were all super good, and that's always amazing to see. The set design was amazing.
Sounds awesome.
The sounds were really loud.
I don't know if the genre is as important as just like the quality. You know, when you're like maybe horror theater, like there's going to be hallmarks of any genre. Just like with a musical artist, it's like this works for this genre, or like we go to see a lot of these types of shows, and like you see bands do this with their lighting or their sound or their performance. Like in horror, like you were saying, Kassie was telling me, in the Halloween Horror Nights, the stuff they do with strobe lights, like the strobes where you're seeing somebody here and then the next second they're like right in your face, and the strobe lights make it so you can't see them moving. Like that is really effective. And the loud sounds, that's really effective. Like not utilizing that for the bad theater company, that definitely was a huge detriment.
And it's just like a taste thing. Like you can tell Trepany House just like
is cool.
They're very cool, and they know what's cool, and they've worked on actually cool big shows and cool stuff. And the other company I think they're just starting out. So maybe
that's a big thing too. It's just like, well, yeah, I mean, you could go see a band that sucks, even if they're like successful.
Yeah.
It could be like, this is lame,
or
just not for you. Or like taste wise, it could be like, this shit's cheesy. And this is like, or corny, whatever.
But it would be like
cool.
A really shitty, inexperienced band charging you upwards of $60 to $80 for a ticket and hyping it up and saying, we're going to be the best show you've ever seen. And you are going to have your mind changed about music itself. And then it's like a middle school level.
Well, to be fair, that's like that fucking, I mean, I think a really great example, it's like that, Willy Wonka experience in Scotland.
Oh.
It was kind of like that. Like, I know that was like a little worse.
Oh my God.
But like, it was like pretty much that's like, it was sort of close.
I
like
didn't
that's
even
like in the universe of it. Cause that's like people thought they were going to a thing and we thought we were going to a thing, but like it was pretty much that. There was something else like that recently, right?
Oh, I don't know. I just know the original one was like the original Tumblr meetup, and it was just like a ballroom rented out at a hotel, and there was a tiny little inflatable pool filled with balls that like 2 or 3 people could fit in.
Yeah, that's cool. That actually is rad. No, but it really reminded me of like the Willy Wonka thing.
Yeah.
And like the way that it was advertised was like, I mean, this advertising probably went much harder than the Willy Wonka.
Oh my God. I was like, I'm going to be scarred from this is what I was thinking. And oh my God. We were front row center. And
we always have fun.
Of course.
And we did have fun.
We did have fun, but in a different way than they intended.
And it was nice. It's probably nice too that you got to juxtapose it so heavily.
I'm thankful for that. It really made me lose hope. But then like pretty shortly after going to this, I was like, okay, it can be done. And these are the things that make it good as opposed to making it not very good.
Yeah. I did not get to see the good one.
Well, January, maybe we'll be there.
Yeah, maybe.
All right. And with that, please like, rate, review, subscribe, follow the pod wherever you consume it. Follow us on Instagram for photos from the show at Tell Me Your Ghost Story Podcast. If you're listening to audio only, there's video accompaniment over on YouTube every week. And we got some fun stuff going over on TikTok at Tell Me Your Ghost Story Pod. If you have a true paranormal story you'd like to share, please email it to tellmeyourghoststorypodcast@gmail.com. Until next week, my friends, good night to all, and to all a good night. Bye.
Bye-bye.